Hello everyone and welcome to Digestible News, your news in digestible English. My name is Corey and this show teaches English while keeping you informed about Korea and the world. Today is Friday, July 10th, 2026. Every episode will have various stories with key phrases in each article. We'll also have a summary practice and a discussion question called a big Q after each article. A newspaper PDF version is also available in the comments down below. The format has changed. Tell me what you think in the comments at the end. Let's start with story number 1. Supreme Court upholding 7-year sentence for former President Yoon. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol received his first Supreme Court ruling this week. The court confirmed a 7-year prison sentence for obstructing the Corruption Investigation Office, also known as the CIO. What happened? On December 3rd, 2024, Yoon declared emergency martial law. This shocked the nation. During this time, he blocked the CIO from executing arrest warrants and conducting investigations, allegedly. His security team was mobilized to prevent the CIO from doing their job. This is one of our key phrases. Mobilized is a verb, to mobilize. It means organize and send into action. Yoon's legal team argued that the CIO has no authority to investigate the martial law situation, but the Supreme Court rejected this argument. The court ruled that investigations are permissible, even while someone is president, as long as the investigations don't interfere with the president's duties. Permissible is another key phrase. It is an adjective. It comes from the verb to permit. It means allowed or acceptable, permissible action, for example. The Supreme Court also confirmed that the CIO's procedures were lawful. The court said warrant execution or action was legal and the security chief's refusal to cooperate was unlawful. This ruling is important because it's the first Supreme Court decision in Yoon's 8 ongoing trials related to the martial law declaration. It sets a precedent for how the courts will handle the remaining cases. Precedent meaning to set a precedent, rather, is a verb phrase. It means to establish an example or a benchmark for future cases. All right. In this article, we learned the phrases to mobilize, which is a verb meaning to organize and send people or resources into action. For example, the government mobilized troops to respond to the crisis. We also learned the phrase permissible, which is an adjective meaning allowed or acceptable. For example, is it permissible to bring phones into the exam room? All right, in summary, the Supreme Court confirmed Yoon's 7-year prison sentence for blocking an investigation during the martial law crisis. This is his first Supreme Court ruling out of 8 trials he is facing. To summarize an article will help you understand it better. Practicing summary is a good way to improve your comprehension. All right? Okay. Our big question for this article, what do you think about how this case was handled? Let me know in the comments down below. As for political and other types of controversial articles, I will help with the English in the comments, but overall commentary on individual political stances is not what this channel is for. So let me know what you think and I'll help you with what you wrote. Story number 2. North Koreans praise South Korean media and express desire for unification. A survey reveals that North Koreans are accessing South Korean dramas, films, and music at high rates, despite severe government crackdowns. Severe being an adjective, being intense or strong government crackdowns. Crackdowns meaning they're watching and keeping control of the people. The survey found that 95% of North Korean respondents had watched or listened to South Korean content. How do they access this content, you might be asking? Since North Korea bans internet access, people use USB drives and micro SD cards to share South Korean shows. They watch on tablets and mobile devices. The content spreads through personal networks carefully hidden from authorities. What are North Koreans saying? One man watched a South Korean submarine movie and said he wished North Korea would build cool movies instead of expensive weapons that don't feed people. Wished here is a key phrase for, it's a verb meaning wanted or desired something. He wished that, or he wished for. A woman who watched South Korean fashion magazines expressed envy for how people could dress freely in the South. Expressed envy is a verb phrase which means it shows some desire to have what someone else has. She wishes she could dress the way South Korean people do. She expressed envy over the fashion of South Korean people. Many North Koreans are also discovering that their country is unique. After reading a South Korean news article, a woman realized that North Korea is the only country with 0% internet usage among 230 nations. She had been taught that her country was powerful and that people were happy, but now she questions why the government bans internet access. The North Korean authorities are intensifying their crackdowns. Remember, crackdowns is stopping and controlling people. Intensifying is a verb. It means making stronger or more extreme. People caught watching South Korean content face severe punishments, including execution. In July 2024, an official was secretly tried and executed for distributing South Korean dramas and songs. Tried in this case means given a trial in a court, or maybe by a military court where he was then killed. All right. Despite the risks, more North Koreans are seeking external information. They're looking for outside info. As one organization noted, sending micro SD cards into North Korea costs between 60 million and 170 million Korean won just for the cards alone. All right, in this article, we learned the verb to wish, which means to want or desire something. For example, I wish I could visit South Korea someday. I wish that we could reunify. I wish that I could eat some delicious food today, something like that. We also learned the phrase to express envy, which means to show that you want what someone else has. For example, many people express envy when they see others traveling abroad, or many express envy when they're looking at Instagram. For our summary, despite severe government punishments, 95% of North Koreans have accessed South Korean media, and many now desire unification and freedom to live like people in the South. Authorities are intensifying crackdowns, but demand for external information continues to grow. There's a summary of our article. And as for our big Q, our big question, do you think media and culture can change how people think about their government? Should countries allow people to access information from other countries? What role does media play in bringing people together? Big questions. I'm curious what you think. As for our next story, we're going to the World Cup. Argentina defeats Egypt 3-2 in epic World Cup comeback, but Egypt disputes the officiating. Argentina won one of the most dramatic matches in World Cup history this last Tuesday. The defending champions were losing 2-0 to Egypt with only minutes remaining. Then something remarkable happened. Remarkable is our key phrase. It's an adjective meaning worthy of attention or surprisingly good, shocking. In the final 23 minutes of the match, Argentina scored 3 unanswered goals. Cristian Romero scored in the 79th minute. Then Lionel Messi scored the equalizer in the 83rd minute. Finally, Enzo Fernandez scored the winner in stoppage time. The match ended 3-2 for Argentina. Stoppage time being overtime in soccer, I'm sure you know. Messi was named man of the match. He extended his World Cup record to 21 goals across 6 tournaments. Tears could be seen in his eyes after the match as fans celebrated. But Egypt is not accepting the result. Not accepting is a verb phrase. It means refuse to agree. Do not accept, do not take. They will refute, go against. The Egyptian Football Association filed a complaint about the officiating. They say the referee failed to use VAR appropriately. Appropriately being an adverb, which means in a proper or suitable way or in a correct way. Specifically, Egypt argues that a goal they scored in the 58th minute should have counted. The referee reviewed the play and ruled that a foul was committed in the build-up to the goal. So on the way to the goal, there was a foul committed. Egypt says this decision was unfair. FIFA's chief of refereeing defended the decision, stating that the foul was clear, was obvious. He said that if a foul is identified during a goal's build-up, the VAR can recommend an on-field review regardless of when the foul occurred. So even if it was done on-field in the build-up, it can be asked to be reviewed even after the goal. The foul occurred, by the way, as a verb. That means happened, or that happened is the best synonym. Egypt's coach made a joke saying he didn't know July 5th was April Fool's Day at the World Cup. The Egyptian Football Association said the decision left profound questions about consistency and fairness. Profound being huge, major, big implications. In this article, we learn the adjective remarkable, which means worthy of attention or surprisingly good. For example, Argentina's comeback was remarkable because they scored 3 goals in 23 minutes. Surprising. We also learned the phrase to accept, which means to agree with or to approve of something. For example, Egypt is not accepting the referee's decision. You can also use this as an adjective. An accepting person is someone who accepts things easily. So you can, as with most verbs, you can change them into adjectives just by adding ing. As for the summary of this article, Argentina defeated Egypt 3-2 in an extraordinary comeback, but Egypt has disputed the officiating, claiming a goal was wrongly disallowed, and the referee misused VAR. Disallowed, which was the opposite of allow, obviously. Our big cue for this one is, do you think the referee made the right decision? I just accept the officials' rulings because I'm not well versed in soccer, but I know it is very contentious, very controversial. And what do you think? Should Egypt appeal the decision? Write your answers in the comments down below and I'll help you with your English. Our next story is about a hospital workplace bullying culture, and it's persisting in Korea despite bullying reforms. South Korea's hospitals continue to struggle with a workplace bullying culture called taeum. This practice involves senior staffs burning junior workers through verbal abuse, humiliation, and excessive loads, under the guise of training. Guise is a noun. It means a false appearance or pretense. Maybe you've heard the word disguise. Disguise is to change your face or to change your appearance. The guise is the false appearance or pretense of something. Recent deaths among young healthcare workers have renewed attention to this issue. 2 nurses in their 20s died by suicide recently, raising concerns about the culture in hospitals and other healthcare settings. Raising is one of our key phrases. It's a verb. In this context, it means bring attention to raise concerns. One nurse with 9 years of experience said she was assigned excessive workloads at a public hospital in Seoul. She worked holidays and overtime without pay. When she complained, her supervisor blamed her lack of ability rather than the unreasonable demands. Unreasonable is our second phrase. It's an adjective and it means not fair or sensible. To be reasonable is understandable. Okay, that is reasonable amount of work. I can do that. Unreasonable is more than is possible. She filed a workplace harassment complaint. Healthcare workers say taeum takes many forms. Senior staff might assign routine tasks without proper guidance or arbitrarily or randomly change day and night shifts. Arbitrarily is an adverb. It means done without any reason or planning. Again, randomly is a synonym. Because this treatment is framed as training, many nurses feel unable to resist without compromising patient care. Compromising being a verb, mean weakening or endangering. So to them, they care about the patients very much, so they don't want to hurt the patient's care, so they just follow what is told to them, even if it's unreasonable. The practice emerged from the belief that healthcare workers need rigorous training because the mistakes could harm patients. Rigorous is intense, strong. But experts say the reasons for taeum now range from personal conflicts to structural problems like staff shortages or excessive workloads. Remember, excessive. Too much, too heavy. South Korea passed workplace harassment laws in 2019, but healthcare workers say these laws have had limited impact. They've had small effect. Hospitals still have weak reporting mechanisms and rigid hierarchies. It's hard to report, and the hierarchy is very, very strong. More importantly, the underlying problem, chronic understaffing, remains unsolved. Underlying is an adjective. It means forming the basis or some foundation. The real problem is understaffing. Make sense? A study found that 45.9% of newly hired nurses left their jobs within the first year. Many cited anxiety and burnout for reasons. Experts say lasting change requires hospitals and nursing schools to transform or change workplace culture, not just punish abusers after incidents occur. In this article, we learned the verb to raise, which means in this context, to bring attention or to introduce a topic, to raise a concern. For example, the recent deaths raised serious concerns about hospital working conditions. Usually these two words are used together, to raise concerns. Make sense? We also learned the adjective unreasonable, which means not fair or sensible. For example, working without pay for unreasonable hours made the nurse consider leaving her job. Working without pay is unreasonable. Working unreasonable hours, maybe 15-hour shifts 6 times a week, is unreasonable, like this. Here's our summary. Despite legal reforms, hospital bullying culture persists in South Korea, with chronic staff shortages and rigid hierarchies allowing abuse to continue. And experts say only fundamental or underlying workplace transformation will prevent future tragedies. Our big cue for today, this is a controversial topic, so please be careful. What should hospitals do to protect their workers? Should the government enforce stricter punishments for workplace bullying? What should we do to help these poor nurses? Our next story is about young Koreans embracing some stress relief with sensory toys and also Seoul's easygoing morning runs. This story is a little bit of a palate cleanser. Palate cleanser means after something strong or emotional, you do something light and simple to clean the palate of your mouth. It's like a food term. All right, let's begin. Young Koreans are finding new ways to manage stress without pressure or competition. Two trends are emerging: sensory toys and a city-sponsored relaxation program. The first trend involves tactile toys called malangi and wakpu balls. Tactile is some touching thing, something that is with your fingers or your hands. Malangi are soft, pliable rubber toys designed to be kneaded, stretched, and squeezed. Wakpu balls hide a soft filling inside a hard wax shell. When pressed hard enough, the shell cracks with a satisfying sound. Instagram shows around 120,000 posts about malangi and 10,000 about the wakpu balls. The appeal is largely sensory. It has to do with vision, taste, smell, hearing, or touch. Young adults are traveling to Cheongsin-dong's toy market, nicknamed the Malangi Mecca, to touch and compare products in person. For 3,000 to 10,000 won, they get a pocket-sized, meaning it's small enough to go in your pocket, object that helps them decompress. Decompress, very important word. It's a verb. It means to relax and reduce stress. The analog shopping trip itself has become part of the ritual. So going in person, touching, seeing, finding, buying, this is all decompression for many young people. The second trend is Seoul's easygoing morning program. The city permanently expanded this stress-free running initiative after a successful pilot, after a beta test. Unlike traditional marathons focused on competition and fast times, this program welcomes participants to walk, jog, or cycle at their own pace. Strollers, kickboards, and leashed pets are welcome explicitly. Explicitly is an adverb. It means clearly and directly stated. So in the advertisement, they say pets are allowed, strollers are allowed, kickboards are allowed. So it's clear. So it is explicitly stated. A civic satisfaction survey showed 90.4% satisfaction rate, with 96.1% of participants wanting to return. The program runs Sunday mornings from 7 to 9 a.m. along a 5-kilometer waterfront route in Yeouido Park. In July, the city is introducing a new downtown route through Seoul's historic center. Introducing, of course, is a verb. It means to present or make available for the first time. When you introduce a person, you're making them you're introducing them to someone else to know each other. But introducing a program is like to bring it out for the very first time. It's like the action of announcing. Sorry, that explanation was a little strange, but we're doing our best. Both trends appeal to young workers exhausted by long hours and academic pressure. A 20-something resident explained that she and her sister had been planning their market visit for a month after seeing Instagram posts. We even saved up for today, she said with a laugh. In this article, we learned the verb to decompress, which means to relax and reduce stress. For example, after a stressful day at work, I decompress by squeezing my sensory toy. Or after a stressful day at work, I decompress by watching K-dramas. Something like that. We also learned the verb to introduce, which means to present or make available for the first time when it comes to a program or maybe you can introduce a new K-idol group or introduce a new program at work or a new coworker. In summary, young Koreans are embracing, they're hugging, taking close to them, low-pressure stress relief activities, collecting sensory toys and participating in Seoul's easygoing morning runs. This is reflecting a shift away from competitive, high-pressure recreation towards relaxation and community. Big Q for today. This is a very big one for me. I really am curious. What stress release activities do you enjoy? As for me, I like to watch dramas and I like to go to the movies. I go to the movies pretty frequently. So I'm very curious what you guys think. Please tell me in the comments down below. Our next story is about South Korea officially launching digital nomad visas with relaxed eligibility. South Korea has launched a new visa specifically designed for remote workers. The F1D visa, also known as workation visa, allows foreign nationals employed by overseas companies to live in Korea while working remotely. This is different from a traditional work visa, which requires employment with a Korean employer. The digital nomad visa lets people live and work in Korea without changing jobs. The program followed a successful pilot, remember pilot? Beta test, that ran from January 2024 through May this year. Based on feedback, the government relaxed the eligibility requirements. So because it was a little bit strict, which is good at the beginning, from feedback, they relaxed it some, so more people are eligible. More people can join this program. To make the visa more attractive, requirements is a noun. It means things that are necessary or must be met. So they relaxed their requirements. Attractive is an adjective, and it means appealing or interesting to people, whether it be people or programs or some product, something like that. Under the old pilot rules, applicants, people who applied, generally needed to earn at least twice Korea's previous year's gross national income per capita. The new rules are more flexible. Flexible is a key phrase. It means it's an adjective meaning able to change or adapt. For example, applicants aged 18 to 34 who live outside Seoul, Incheon, and Gyeonggi province only need to earn the previous year's GNI per capita, not twice that amount. Korea's GNI per capita was $36,963 in 2025. The maximum length of stay has also been extended from 2 years to 3 years. This gives remote workers more time to experience Korea and decide if they want to stay longer. Justice Minister Jung Sung-ho said the visa is intended to attract creative talent from around the world. Attract being a version of attractive earlier. It means to draw or appeal to people, to attract something, like a magnet attracts another magnet. The government hopes these highly skilled individuals will experience Korea's appeal, put down roots, and become valuable assets to the country. In this article, we learned the verb to attract as well as attractive, which means to draw or appeal to people, to be appealing. For example, South Korea's culture and technology attract young professionals from around the world. We also learned the adjective flexible, which means able to change or adapt to different situations. For example, the new visa requirements are more flexible than the old ones. Now for summary time. South Korea launched a digital nomad visa that allows remote workers to live in Korea for up to 3 years, with relaxed income requirements designed to attract international talent and encourage them to build lives in the country. Sound good? As for our big question, would you want to be a digital nomad and work from another country? Which one? I'm very interested in this idea, though I'm not sure if I want to leave Korea. I like it here. All right. Our next story is about monsoon flooding here in central Korea. Super Typhoon Bavi is approaching. Heavy monsoon rains pounded central and southern Korea this week, causing widespread damage and forcing evacuations. At the same time, Super Typhoon Bavi is moving toward the peninsula. Yeah, my friends in the south are telling me there is constantly rain warnings multiple times a day. The flooding was severe. Heavy rain of up to 50 millimeters per hour fell in Chungcheong provinces. Cumulative rainfall from Wednesday through Thursday morning exceeded 220 millimeters in Daejeon and Cheongju. Yeah, some of my friends in Daejeon, they told me it was raining so hard. The Korea Meteorological Administration forecasted up to 200 more millimeters through Thursday night. Forecasted being a verb, which is predicted future weather. To break the word down is for is ahead of you, and cast is to make some prediction, to make some to throw something out. So to throw something out ahead of you is to find what the future will be, to forecast something. The damage was substantial. Substantial is an adjective meaning large in amount or importance. In Boeon County, 82 people were urgently evacuated from homes to village halls and senior citizen centers due to flooding concerns at a reservoir. In Cheongju, an embankment collapsed, forcing residents and staff at a nursing home to evacuate to a nearby facility. 2 residents trapped inside a flooded home were rescued by firefighters in Daejeon. Authorities received 145 reports of heavy rain damage nationwide from Wednesday evening through Thursday morning. Landslide and flood advisories, warnings, were issued across the country. Now comes the typhoon threat. Super Typhoon Bavi remains strong as it moves westward. The storm's central pressure is 910 hectopascals, and maximum sustained winds are around 56 meters per second. The field of gale force winds stretches up to 500 kilometers from the storm's center. Forecasters expect Bavi to maintain its strength through Friday while moving toward the waters southwest of Jeju Island. The typhoon will then move north along China's eastern coast Saturday before weakening Sunday. South Korea is expected to avoid a direct hit from Bavi, but the storm's vast size, which is super huge size, and powerful winds will still bring rough seas, meaning big waves, heavy rain, and strong winds to parts of the country, particularly around Jeju Island and the southern coast. In this article, we learned the verb to forecast, which means to predict the future when it comes to weather or some event. You can forecast an event. Forecast is used in economy a lot. So to forecast a drop in the Kospi, for example. Future weather or events. For example, meteorologists forecasted heavy rain for the weekend. We also learned the adjective substantial, which means large in amount or importance. For example, the flooding caused substantial damage to homes and infrastructure. Another use would be, I thought the price of the restaurant was high, but the meal size was substantial. It was a lot of food, so the price was okay. Summary time. Heavy monsoon rains caused severe flooding and evacuations across central Korea, while Super Typhoon Bavi approaches from the south, threatening Jeju Island and the southern coast with rough seas, rain, and strong winds. As for the big Q today, I'm curious, have you experienced extreme weather? And what kinds of extreme weather? For example, where I'm from, we have a lot of tornadoes. And we've had tornadoes come over our house, nearby, destroyed neighbors' houses, etc. Please tell me your stories in the comments down below. All right, now for our next and last segment, it's This Week in History. On July 5th, 1687, Isaac Newton published his groundbreaking book called Principia Mathematica, which means Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy. This book changed the way people understood the world. That's an understatement, big understatement. It means it was a huge, huge thing. Newton's Principia explained the laws of motion and gravity. He wrote about why objects fall to the ground and how planets orbit the sun. Before Newton, people did not fully understand these forces. His work provided clear mathematical explanations. To be clear, even after his work, they of course didn't understand it clearly, though this was a much better explanation. The book was revolutionary. Revolutionary is an adjective. It means completely new and causing major changes. Newton showed that the same laws that govern falling apples also govern the movement of planets in space. This unified understanding of nature was groundbreaking. It was all pulled together into one type of physics. Newton's three laws of motions became the foundation of physics. These laws are still taught in schools today, almost 340 years later. His theory of gravity explained planetary motion with mathematical precision. Precision being a noun, meaning exact accuracy. The Principia was written in Latin, with the scholarly language of his time. Few people could read it at first because it was so difficult and technical, but over time, Newton's ideas spread throughout Europe and changed how scientists approached studying nature. Newton's work influenced centuries of scientific progress. His methods of combining observation, mathematics, and logical reasoning became the foundation of modern science. Influence being a verb, it means affected or changed the course of. Today, it's where we get the word influencer. Yeah. Today, Newton is considered one of the most important scientists who ever lived. Of course, he is not the inventor of the scientific method. We can talk about him another time. However, this set the standard for how physics would move forward to today. Thank you so much for listening to edition 55 of Digestible News. Don't forget, the newspaper PDF is in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this episode, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. If you'd like to support the channel, you can become a member by using the join button down below. I want to give a special thank you to the members of this channel. Dororuk, thank you again for joining. This Dentify, I appreciate you as always. Hyunhee Kim, thank you so much. DJ Park, thank you so much as well. Jinsong, thanks for the support. Kim Hyung-oh, grateful for you. Joanne Nine Kim, thank you all as always for being here. Parsley, thank you so much. Peter Lee, just keep supporting. Thank you so much. Excellent Mango, thank you as always for everything you do and your comments. JKGE9FO, thank you for being here since the beginning as well. Your support means everything to me. Thank you for helping me create English language learning content. I'll be back on this next Monday with edition 56. There's also new members content coming soon. So if you would like to be involved with that, though no pressure, you can check the join button down below. Until then, keep having fun learning English, stay informed, but above all, stay curious. Bye for now.